Great. So this recording will be shared with you after the webinar, so you have access to all the information that you're learning here tonight. This webinar has been a group effort from the Parent and Family Engagement Team, from our Parent Executive Board, and from the Student Health and Wellness Center on campus. So we're grateful for all the work that everybody has put into this. You'll hear from 4 different presenters today. The first will be Doug Everhart, the director of the Student Health and Wellness Center. Then you'll hear from Marte Matthews, who will join us in a bit. She is going to provide the parent perspective on supporting your students' health and wellness. She also happens to be a mental health professional serving families in the San Jose area. And you'll hear from 2 students who work within student health and wellness and have been great peer mentors. They're also student athletes, Kiera Smeenge and Hana Nip. And I'll be introducing all these people later. Just to let you know, in terms of if you have any questions, we'll do the Q&A following the presentations today. So if you want to go ahead and drop your questions into the Q&A box, we can then process them and make sure that we're addressing the things that you'd like to hear about. Okay, so now I'd like to introduce 2 of our team members from the Parent and Family Engagement Team. First, I'll introduce Taylor DeLine, who is our Assistant Director. Taylor, would you like to say hi?
Yeah, hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Great to have you here.
Fabulous. And then we also have Alicia Sandoval, who is our Events Associate. Alicia?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Hope we have a good time learning some new things tonight.
I have no doubt we will, definitely. Okay, so I think we're all set up with the introductions and the housekeeping issues. If I haven't, we'll go ahead and raise your hand and I'll circle back on that. But I'd love to first introduce our first presenter, Doug Everhart. We're very happy to have him with us today. He's the director of the UCI Student Health and Wellness Center. I'm going to tell you a little bit about his background. So Doug began his collegiate experience at Redlands in engineering at the University of Redlands. And after identifying his passion for substance abuse prevention, he completed a master's in education with a focus on counseling, also from the University of Redlands. Doug wrote and successfully implemented a federal grant from the U.S. Department of Education that enacted a comprehensive substance abuse prevention prevention program at the University of Redlands. This was strongly based in peer education and student programming. He then took that model to the University of California, Riverside in 1998, where he successfully implemented and built a comprehensive health education program over 12 years. In the summer of 2010, he accepted a position as alcohol programs manager at the University of California, Irvine's Health Education Center, which is now known as the Student Health and Wellness Center. He then became interim director and was appointed director in 2013. Doug is also very involved as a volunteer nationally. He has served the Bacchus Network as a California state coordinator for the Southwest region and as a consultant for affiliate support. In 1995, the NCAA's Champs Life Skills program served as his bridge to athletics. Active in the NCAA since 2000, he has served as a facilitator for the National Student Athlete Leadership Conference and on the Champs Life Skills Advisory Team. He helped create and develop the Step Up Bystander Intervention Program and currently serves on its executive board. Doug is happily married to his wife, Wendy, and has 2 boys, David and Robbie. Both were multi-sport student athletes in high school and are now engineering majors at Cal Baptist University. Doug is a sports enthusiast, but just loves spending quality time with his family and with our UCI community. So let me now introduce and welcome Doug Everhart. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Christine. Let me share my screen here and get this started. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Happy to be here. Thank you for joining us tonight. Hopefully, as others have said, we can provide some good information for you to help support your student and their mental health. So I'll just, since Christine did such a great job of introduction, I don't need to say anything further. But I am the director of the Center for Student Wellness and Health Promotion on campus, which I'm going to highlight some of our resources, but I'm also going to highlight some of the other resources that are available to your students on campus as well. Our office is based on 3 core values. One is advocacy, meaning that we advocate for student health and well-being. So we use data from surveys, from campus partners, from just talking with students, things like tonight where we get feedback from parents and others. So then we take all of that information, figure out what student needs are, and then we advocate to get the resources necessary to provide our programs and services to support student health and well-being. Once we identify what those needs are, our next value is awareness. We raise awareness across campus for what individual student needs are, as well as what the campus-wide collective needs are. So we not only serve individual students, but we also try to support the campus in creating a culture of well-being in any way we can, so that that is understood as an institutional value that UCI is very proud of. And then lastly is empowerment. We all know that health and well-being and wellness are all our own individual responsibilities. So we try to help students understand that while we provide as much guidance, support, and resources as necessary, it's really up to you as an individual to take that information, use it in any way you see fit to benefit yourself and enhance your own health and well-being. The importance of that is that when you leave UCI, we want students to recognize that they do control and have the power to manage their own health and well-being, so that they can not only do that for themselves, but then they can take that and apply that to their communities, to their workplaces, to their families, and impact the rest of the world to make the world a better place because of what they have as far as knowledge and experience. The topics that we address, again, based on surveys and feedback from campus partners and the many forms we get, these are the 5 key areas that students have helped us identify as needs that they see on a regular basis. So mental health and emotional well-being certainly is a prominent topic that students let us know is important to them. Another one is sexual and relationship health. And while most people, when they hear sexual and relationship health, they think of intimate partners. But when we talk about relationship health, there are many relationships that students are involved in. There are roommate relationships, there are teammate relationships, there are classmate relationships, there's family relationships, there's relationships with your academic advisors and faculty and other staff on campus. So we think it's important to educate students and support students in developing healthy relationships across the spectrum of relationships that they have in their lives. Another topic we address is alcohol and other drugs. So we help students navigate those areas. Wellness talks about kind of general wellness topics like time management, stress management, self-care, resilience, and sleep, among others. So similar to mental health and emotional well-being, but general wellness is how do I manage my time? How do I manage my stress and things like that? And then lastly, nutrition and body image. So we have a master's level or higher professional for each of those topic areas in our office. So we are not a clinical office. I want to make that clear. So we are health educators that do have master's level education and experience behind us. So what we do is provide education, support, guidance, maybe help in navigating questions. So if students just want to ask questions or need some help in these topic areas, maybe not to the level of clinical need or therapy, but they just want to get more information and maybe guidance. Maybe they have questions on nutrition, or they have questions on healthy relationships, or maybe they just are experimenting with alcohol and other drugs and they want to know some of the risks and things to look out for there. Those are things that students can come and talk to us about. And we make it clear that we're not psychologists or counselors or therapists. We do have resources, which I'll talk about in a little bit, that do that. So it's a good starting point. So if students may not want to go right to a clinical setting or a therapist or a psychologist, they just have some questions and they want just some friendly support, they can come to us and start. And then maybe in the conversation, we identify that, you know what, maybe you do need to talk with someone in a clinical setting or a therapy type of level of support. Then we can provide that warm kind of handoff to those resources and be the conduit to connect them to the right place. There's ways that we deliver our programs and services. We have large scale events like health fairs. Every quarter we do what we call a de-stress fest during finals week. So we have 2 days where we bring the therapy dogs, we do relaxing exercises, we have healthy snacks. So we just remind students during finals week at our de-stress fest events that we are there to support them and we want to just wish them luck during finals. We also do trainings and workshops in classrooms for student organizations and residence halls, lots of different environments that we do different trainings and workshops in those 5 topic areas or other health and wellness topics that maybe departments or student organizations can request. We also do individual consultations, which again, since I mentioned we are not clinical psychologists or not licensed therapists, we call them individual consultations because that's exactly what they are. It's just a conversation where we listen and then try to provide as much guidance and support as we can to meet the student where they are and either answer questions or provide some maybe guidance on some coping strategies for whatever they may be navigating. There are ways for students to get involved in our office, which again, you heard from my background, peer education has been a huge part of what I support and I value. Because what I've learned in my career and all of our staff has learned is that as great as we may be and as friendly as we may be, and I'll let the students decide whether or not they think that, but as great as we think we may be, we know that we are not ever going to be as effective in connecting with students as students are with their peers. So we use peer educators to train them in these health topics so that they can then be peer resources on a peer-to-peer level with their fellow students. Now, that doesn't mean we expect them to be professionals or kind of master's level support staff like we have as professionals in our office, but they can at least start a conversation, provide some basic information and guidance, and then again, get some referrals to the right resources, whether it's to our office or another office. Our peer educators can also do referrals to some of our other campus partners. We also have interns, practicum and field placement students from the schools of social ecology and the program in public health. So we do have academic student interns in our office that are studying to be either health educators or some other form of health field. But we also have students that are maybe not related to a health field, like political science or engineers that become peer educators, and they just want to get involved or work in our office or volunteer in our office so that they can be a resource for their peers that may not be health related as far as academics go. And that's our last category. Sometimes we have students that just want to come into our office and volunteer to help us with events or marketing or whatever it might be to help let students know about our services. One of the things that I've asked our staff to do is we know that the research says that information alone does not change behavior, or policies alone does not change behavior. So what we want to do is create services or offer services that supplement the information we provide in our educational workshops or consultations. So in each of our topic areas, we have a service that is related to the information we talk about and educate students on so that they can practice what they hear from an educational perspective on the things they learn from our educational workshops and services. So for instance, in mental health, we talk about how nature and being outside is important and can enhance your mental health. So one of the things we do as a service is we do Wednesday wellness walks. Every even numbered week in the quarter, we do a 1.5 hour guided walk in one of our local nature preserves. We have 3 locations on campus and 2 locations that are adjacent to campus. So in those 5 weeks, again, even numbered weeks, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 of every quarter, we do these guided walks, basically introducing students, faculty, and staff to the nature preserves that we have right here in our own backyard or right here on campus, so that they can, at their own leisure, take walks through those spaces. For sexual health, if we're going to talk about barrier protection and the use of sexual health products, we provide those for students in our office. So they come in, just show their student ID, not that we take down their names or take down their ID. We just want to make sure that we're giving these products to students only, so that we just ask for ID to prove that they're a student. Tips training for alcohol and other drugs. Basically, we are a campus that does serve alcohol in designated locations. So we do the alcohol training of servers of alcohol, so that basically what we're trying to do is ensure that what we encourage students to do to consume alcohol legally and responsibly, we're also training our servers to serve in the same manner, so that the students who are consuming, as well as the servers who are serving, are getting the exact same information about how to manage alcohol consumption in a legal and responsible way. The wellness room is our service for wellness and stress management. We have a room with 2 commercial grade massage chairs. They are also are 4 memory foam beanbags in the room. We have coloring books and puzzles and origami and different activities. So it's a place where students can just drop in Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and either enjoy a 20-minute massage in a massage chair, or they can do an activity just to unwind between classes. So that is just open for a drop-in basis for students to come hang out and manage their stress. Healthier vending and beverages. If we're going to talk about healthy eating and nutrition, we want to make sure that students have healthy options on campus. So we work very closely with dining to make sure that our menus in our dining areas have healthy options. But in our vending machines, we also want to make sure that in the food vending machines, there's not just chips and candy bars, but maybe there's granola bars and trail mix, dried fruit, peanuts and other forms of nuts, those types of things that are healthier. And then in our beverage machines, we want to make sure there's often options that can include water and juices and things that are not just sodas and sugary beverages. And then lastly, for any nursing parents or staff members, we have a lactation station, which is a small space that is private. It's attached to a private restroom where nursing parents can either breastfeed or pump or take care of child needs. So that's a little bit about our office. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everybody again. I just want to mention a couple of other resources. So again, our office is the Center for Student Wellness and Health Promotion. We are located on the center of campus in the Student Center, right above the Zot and Go convenience store. So that's where we are located. But some other offices that we partner with that are in our cluster of departments in health and wellness include the Counseling Center. So the Counseling Center is certainly important. I know many of the questions that came in before this webinar included like what mental health services are available, how do my students access mental health services. Our Counseling Center provides free psychological support to students. Any student can go there because student fees cover those services. So you don't necessarily have to have the campus health insurance policy. If you do have the campus health insurance policy, you do have some extra benefits, but because students pay a student services fee, they are entitled to services, basic services from the Counseling Center. Same thing is true with our Student Health Center. So medical providers are available, everything from pharmacy to doctor's visits to dental to eye and vision. We do have psychiatry in the health center. So we are a fully functional student health center. If you do have the student health insurance, the campus health insurance, again, that does qualify you for all of the services. If you have opted out, there are, I believe, some limited services available still due to the student fees, but primarily if you've opted out of the student health insurance or the campus health insurance, most of your medical needs will need to be met through your private medical insurance and medical provider. Another office that can provide support is our Office of Social Work. That is where if there's maybe multiple things going on, many students might have maybe a substance abuse issue as well as a nutritional challenge, or maybe they're struggling to find adequate housing, or maybe there's some food security issues. If there's multiple compounding issues, our campus social workers are really trained and qualified to manage cases, to get people to the right resources to manage maybe multiple challenges that students might be facing. So the Office of Social Work is a great place for more complex issues, or if there's maybe more than one issue that a student might be struggling with. So those are some of the kind of clinical offices that we primarily work with. Oh, right next door to us, we also have our care office for any sexual and relationship violence type of issues, whether it's sexual assault or stalking or domestic violence, those types of concerns. If those do come up, relationship violence, the care office is right next door to us on the 3rd floor of the student center. So that office can provide those resources. We have a basic needs center that can talk about food security and housing security types of issues and things like that. So those are a lot of the resources. So again, I know a lot of the questions that came in before dealt with that. So hopefully that answered some of those questions, but if not, I'll be happy to answer more questions when we get to the Q&A. So thank you for listening. Hopefully that provided some good foundational information, and I'm going to turn it over to Marte.
Thank you so much, Doug, for providing that breadth of information about your services and the other services that are available on campus. I'm sure there will be some follow-up questions. So parents, as the questions come to mind, go ahead and feel free to put them into the Q&A box here, and then we can have them addressed a little bit later in the program. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to a lovely woman, Marte Matthews. She is a parent executive board member and a very, very invested volunteer here on the UCI campus. She is a mental health professional in private practice in San Jose, and she's also affiliated with Stanford Department of Medicine. She is the parent of a 4th-year student in materials science and engineering, and that student is currently studying abroad in the UK. So Marte probably has a lot of different points of experience to talk about and share with you as a parent. So very happy to welcome Marte Matthews and bring her in just a moment. Here we go. There we go. Hi, Marte.
Hi, Christine. Thank you so much. Lovely introduction. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist up in San Jose, and had the opportunity to come down to Irvine a couple of times a year, and always really enjoy the parent weekends as well as other events. I really appreciate those of you who signed up and contributed questions. I thought I might address some of the questions that were added during the sign-up process. I wanted to start with one of my favorite questions because this parent really demonstrated that they have an understanding about the importance of not being intrusive with our students, at the same time really hoping to support good wellness habits. And Doug, I really appreciated your presentation. I learned something every time, something different sticks every time I hear you talk about all of the different programs that are available on campus. And it is so important as parents to remember that we're here to support our students, but we don't want to, get in their space and be intrusive. But I want to praise everyone and recognize everyone who's participating in the program right now, because you are doing something that's going to support your students' wellness without being intrusive right now by finding out about what are some of the resources that are available. So give yourself a pat on the back. You're doing something in your students' best interest right now, learning about the resources that are available at UCI. From time to time, I've looked something up or sent a link to my student. Sometimes maybe my student might ask a question about how do I help my friend with food allergies with dealing with the food service. And I'll look a little something up and send a link. The websites affiliated with the university are really wonderful also at finding out about all kinds of events. And I love the wellness walk on Wednesdays that Bev was talking about. We can also remember that even if our student isn't home, that practicing our own health and wellness is one of the most important things that we can be doing. When we're managing our stress, then we're not going to have exchange a stressed out phone call where maybe we're not in the best shape. If our student needs to contact us about being stressed, we can be more emotionally available to them. There's another wonderful question related to that about how do we help when our student is feeling overwhelmed. And oftentimes we might get a text message. If we're lucky, maybe a phone call. And it can be very, very helpful just to give them a chance to think through what's going on. A lot of the phone calls home that my husband and I get are really about, well, this is going on and this is going on. And, oh, right, I need to remember to do that. Give them a minute to write that down. I use Post-it notes a lot, or, pick up the phone and start taking some notes, giving them a chance to kind of think through, yeah, what has been going on? What are some of the things that need to happen by the beginning of the week or in time for finals? You might ask them, is there maybe like one thing that we might do that would make things go a little bit easier? But you can also ask your student, what would be one thing that if you did one maybe small thing that might just help to build momentum? I hear in lots of families that by cleaning part of the kitchen, or maybe just start by making your bed and hanging up some clothes, that you can start to get some momentum on all of the things that need to get done by doing one thing that helps your environment feel more orderly. So think about starting small to be able to build momentum when you're feeling overwhelmed, because it feels like there's just too much to do in the time that's allowed. I know one of the things that's been very valuable for us as a family is to have a regular time that we usually talk. And we've continued to do that while our student is doing study abroad at University of Edinburgh. We do tend to send some text messages. For some students, maybe organizing a family Discord would work better than text. Figure out what works, but plan to have some check-ins pretty regularly. I always know if it's been more than 2 weeks, I need to reach out a couple more times and figure out what's going on, because there's probably some overwhelm going on the other end. Another parent asked a great question about what can you do if your student is not one that easily shares a lot of information about what's going on at UCI. And I'll give you the same advice that I give to families in my practice here with younger students. you can start by sharing a little bit of information about what's going on your end. But to start off, stay upbeat, stay positive. You don't want the check-ins at home to be full of stress too. So do what you need to with your partner and with your family to figure out how to manage your stress and not make every phone call or text home be about the problems that are going on. Figure out the best way to connect with your student, whether that's, something like I was saying with texting or a family Discord. You might also check in with other relatives and encourage them to check in. Some students are more comfortable talking with an auntie or a cousin than they might be talking with mom or dad. It's just the reality of it. It has to do with their ages and stages. So don't take it personally if somebody else is getting more information. Just be excited about you're getting information. Maybe your sister-in-law is getting some information, and compare notes and be excited for your student. Another question that came in was about what can we do as parents to support independence and personal growth and resilience? What can we do to make sure that our students are getting enough exercise in their busy schedule? And here I'm going to say there's some limits as to what a parent's role is when their young person has those first couple of months and years out of the home. So remember that sometimes instead of you being the one to remind or teach, life, the natural consequences of life, can be a very good teacher too. And talk with your student during those phone calls or those breaks home, and ask questions about what they feel like went really well during the quarter. What was something that they were really happy with? And throughout the quarter, what's something that they really wish they had more of? Maybe getting out into nature more, spending more time in Aldrich Park, or getting out for more hikes. And what's something that they wish they had less of? By asking them some good questions, we can help them do some good thinking. And that means that we're not the ones saying, well, why don't you get out for a hike? Or, hey, have you gotten to the gym lately? Because we know that those kinds of reminders often are actually demotivating rather than building excitement about having a chance to do that. There was another excellent question about what we can do for students if we see that our student is really hesitating to engage socially. And I'm seeing a lot of that in the aftermath of the pandemic. And our students got a lot of isolation and really got out of practice with being social. And so the resident advisors who are in the dorms, they're on the lookout. The university, while the students are living in the dorms, the university really is figuring out what do different students need, and encourage your student to just take small steps. We don't need to go from really isolating and having trouble talking to anybody to going out to a big party or something really big. Taking small steps is, again, one of those ways that we can start small and begin to build some momentum. I hope that some of these ideas have been helpful. One more question that came in that I really liked was, what can we do as parents to support our student around finals week? And I was talking with a student who's involved in this presentation this evening, and got some great ideas. So the ideas that I want to share is to send some upbeat and positive messages, learn about the events that are happening. I love the De-Stress Fest with the therapy dogs, sending the information about that. Hey, this sounds like something fun. Hopefully you can visit one of the dogs in Aldrich Park or the library. I can't remember where that was. But you also might want to check their bank account. The end of the month, the end of the quarter, those are times that they may have kind of maxed out their budget, and a little extra money so they might be able to order an Uber Eats pizza could go a long way to helping them to manage some of that finals week stress. I hope this has given you some ideas about ways that all of us can be helping students to thrive at UC Irvine. Remember that taking good care of ourselves as a family is going to have a positive influence on your students. It's going to make them want to reach out a little bit more if they know that you're in a good position to be encouraging and supportive. Our managing our stress as a family and parents is going to decrease their stress about home life. And that's going to be very helpful so that they can thrive at UC Irvine. I'll look forward to additional questions and go back to Christine. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Marte. That was an excellent presentation. And the way that you addressed all those specific questions, I think parents can get a lot out of this webinar and a lot out of your talk about how to best engage their students in those conversations without it being awkward or seeming forceful, and putting their students on the defensive, right? So always kind of coming with an upbeat bent and a sense of curiosity about what it is that they're doing and what it is that they really like, honestly. So thank you so much, Marte. If you have any questions for Marte or Doug or the students that I'm going to introduce next, please go ahead and put those questions into the Q&A box below, and we'll go ahead and address them once all of our speakers are done. So it's my great pleasure to introduce our next two speakers. There are two students. I'll introduce them one by one. And so we'll start here with Kiera Smeenge. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Pronouns she, her. She's majoring in psychology and she's a third-year student. She's a member of the women's soccer team. Awesome. And a volunteer in Doug Everhart's Department for Student Health and Wellness. As a volunteer, she works with Doug and other volunteers in the office to help support programs behind Happy Faces and Step Up Bystander Intervention. She also gets the opportunity to help with various other student wellness initiatives. Kiera will become a peer health educator in the fall. Glad to hear it. And then our other student presenter is Hana Nip, pronouns she, hers, and she's majoring in psychological science, and she's a third-year student as well. She's a member of the women's track and field team and a peer health educator in Doug Everhart's Department of Student Health and Wellness. As a peer health educator, she works with other student leaders to create workshops and presentations around wellness topics that are administered to the UCI student body to increase student well-being and health. And so I am so happy to have the student perspective here and hear directly from you about what helps motivate you and how you motivate other students through your work. I'll go ahead and hand it over to you, and then parents on the webinar, go ahead and enter your questions in the Q&A, and we'll do that after Kiera and Hana finish their presentation. So handing it over to you. Thank you.
Hi, Christine. Thank you so much for the introduction. That was really good. And I just want to first say that it is an absolute honor to be speaking to you all tonight. I didn't even know that there was a UCI parent engagement thing, but it's so good to be here. Shout out to Maggie's parents and my own. So hi, Mom and Dad. I know you're probably watching and taking photos of me, and I hope I look good. But anyways, I want to first start off by saying that there is definitely a mental health crisis among college student populations today. I mean, it's all over the news. It's written in multiple research articles. Everyone knows that college students suffer an abnormal amount of mental health issues. But I also want to say that I think UCI does a wonderful job of trying to support its students' mental health. I mean, we have the counseling center, we have the Center for Student Wellness and Health Promotion, which is where Kiera and I currently volunteer at. We have the health center, so many different centers that are involved in trying to improve students' mental health at UCI. I also want to mention that on top of that, we have multiple student organizations and clubs that covers diverse interests that all students can join. So I just want to emphasize that UCI really creates a great community for its students. And I have personally felt that community. But also for me, despite this community, I have also still endured my own mental health struggles, which I will kind of share a little bit about. So I had my fair share of ups and downs with my mental health. But I think the number one problem that many other college students, not just at UCI, may be able to relate to is the feeling of loneliness. So coming into UCI, I felt very lonely, and this might have also been partly because of the pandemic. I came in during the first year of the pandemic, so everything was shut down. We couldn't really meet anybody across campus. We had our own social bubble when we moved into the dorms. But despite the pandemic, I think either way, I still would have felt very lonely coming into UCI. And my situation is a little bit different since I am an athlete. So I did come in with built-in friends. But even then, I still felt lonely. And I think this feeling of lonely makes a bit of sense, though, for all college students, because as a college student, this is the first time we get to live on our own and actually for ourselves now and away from our parents and start like a new chapter of our lives. So naturally, this is a super exciting time and also a great time for mental growth and just learning how to live on your own. But this can also come with a lot of stress and overwhelmingness. And that was the case for me too. I no longer had my parents to cook for me, and I actually had to schedule in time to eat and even to remember to eat. That was a big thing. And I had to prioritize and control my own time and make my own decisions. So that was something I had to really hone into, like, was my time management skills. And I also had to make new friends after having lived in my hometown for 18 years and never having to make new friends. So it was also a little socially awkward for me because I had to kind of step out of my comfort zone and really reach out to other people. So all these new experiences are very fruitful, but can also be very overwhelming for us as college students. And also, I want to mention that this all happens while we have to still take classes almost every day and worry about our grades and future careers as well. And as an athlete too, those come with extra pressures that I can talk a little bit more about if you guys are interested. So I was very bombarded with stress and feelings of loneliness during my first couple of years in college. But you know, the end result was not grim. I'm doing great now. And I want to mention that I kind of overcame these challenges because I actually reached out to the community at UCI. So like I mentioned, UCI does a great job of building community. And that is where I ended up finding the Center for Student Wellness and Health Promotion, which is where I currently volunteer at. And that actually kind of really changed my life. I think when the applications for the peer health educator came out and I took it and got in, that's when I started really seeing a shift in my mental health experiences at UCI. The center spoke openly about mental health struggles. I had a great program director, Jody Margolis, who is basically my like all-time mentor here at UCI. Like, I was able to speak with her openly about my mental health struggles. I also work closely with Doug now too. And like, Doug is such a positive person and I love having him in my own life. But I think what I want to emphasize is that the communities at UCI, when you do reach out, they're very they're very receiving, and they will take you in and will care for you, and they offer so many resources, as they did for me. And because of that, I kind of slowly felt like I now belonged and was valued at UCI. So by reaching out to my community, even though I felt lonely and felt like nobody could relate to me, I still reached out and I found people that I could relate to. So I think the number one lesson and advice that I can give to other UCI students, based on my own experience, is to just reach out for help and reach out to your community. It can be easy to think that nobody cares or like nobody relates to you, but we're on a campus with at least like 35,000 students and so many different organizations and resources. So you will for sure find at least one person or one faculty member that will listen and relate to you. There's a community here that will accept you at UCI, and I think that's what's really beautiful about this school. So yeah. And then I'll move it on to Kiera, who will talk a little bit more about her stories.
Hi everyone, I'm Kiera. I'm gonna talk a little bit about mental health, being a student athlete at UCI, and a little bit about my involvement in the student wellness office. So as Hana said, we do kind of have like a mental health crisis going on among college students, and I think it's like a really important topic to address. And from my own personal experience, like being a college student, being an athlete, there can be a lot of added stressors, like moving from high school to college. I feel like college students are kind of held to like new expectations, like super quick. So I feel like that can be difficult to maintain at times. And yeah, it's a big transition. So for myself, I definitely have struggled a bit with mental health at times. And to share a little bit about myself, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes my freshman year, and that came as a very big shock to me. And I bring this up because this kind of I think this really impacted my mental health in college. It was just like a big lifestyle adjustment, and in the beginning, I really struggled with it. And it really became something that was super time consuming. And so it felt like I was just juggling a lot, and it was kind of hindering my abilities to play and compete as an athlete. So yeah, but I struggled for a little bit, but thankfully I feel like UCI, the school I go to, really prioritizes my mental health and student mental health and wellness and just all of that. And I feel like there's so many resources to turn to at UCI that I utilized as well during my initial diagnosis and all of that. So, there's things like the counseling center, there's the wellness office, and then there's also these two programs. They're mandatory for athletes at UCI, but they're also offered to the student body too. And they're called Behind Happy Faces and then Step Up Bystander Intervention. They're both amazing programs, and I've done them multiple times now. But yeah, they've really helped me to sort of learn how to cope with my mental health and address my mental health and feel comfortable talking about it, because I think that there is kind of this stigma where people don't feel comfortable talking about it with others, but in reality, talking about it helps the most. So yeah, I feel like those programs have been the most life-changing for me in my college life, and actually kind of led to my involvement in the wellness office. After going through Step Up Bystander for the second time, I reached out to Doug, who presents these programs to all of the athletics teams, and then I became a volunteer. And now as a volunteer, I've gotten to really help support these programs, and kind of help to learn more about them, what works, what doesn't, and help get more students engaged in them. And I've gotten to sit in on doing Behind Happy Faces with the student body and through athletics. So it's been cool having that perspective to do it with people you've never met and then some of your best friends. So it's been really interesting, and I think it's so helpful. And yeah, I feel like UCI does a really good job of providing resources, and it's just about getting students to be aware of those resources and sort of utilize them. But yeah, I'm gonna keep it short, but yeah, that's kind of all I have to share. I love being a part of the wellness office. I love everything. I love UCI. So yeah, thanks for letting me share.
Thank you both so much. That was really enlightening. And we just love to hear from students as much as possible. I think there was one question that was directed to the two of you. So I don't know who wants to answer it, either Hana or Kiera, but a parent asked, from, in your opinion, what would be like some of the conversation starters or the ways that a parent would approach you to like ask about your mental health and your mental wellness? Like, how would you like that conversation to start? Do you have an answer? Hana?
Kiera, you want to go first or do you want me?
I can go. So you said from like a parent asking?
Right. So if, you were to be asked by your parents or whatever, like, how would you want that conversation to start if you don't have experience with it?
I think it could just be as simple as like, how are you doing kind of thing. Like, rather than like asking about like grades or, something that could be kind of like a potential stress to the student, but just like asking, how are you? Is there anything I can do to support you? Like questions like that, that just kind of keep it simple and kind of put it in the student's court, like put the ball in their court kind of thing. I think that'd be really a good way to start the conversation.
Yeah, I think what Kiera, I was gonna say exactly what Kiera said, but just to add on, I think it would also be great if you could start it off by saying like, oh, I've noticed that you've been feeling a little bit off or looking a little bit off. Like I want to be there for you. So is there anything I can do to help you? So what I'm trying to say is I think it would be great if you could approach it in like an open manner and like in a way where you're telling your student that, or sorry, not your student, your kid, that you do care about their feelings and you do want to be there for them. But yeah, I think just like simple questions like, how are you doing? Like, I've noticed you've been off, like, how are you doing? Stuff like that is just simple and straight to the point, I think would be good.
That's great advice. Thank you for sharing. For Doug, one parent asked, how do you share these resources with the students? I know from Kiera's testimonial, she learned about it through athletics and your presentation to athletics, but what are some other modes of communication that you've used to share?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question that we're all trying to figure out on campus, how to reach students. And we have to do everything because when you talk to students, and I'm sure Hana and Kiera would agree, every student gets information in their own way. Some people pay attention to social media as their primary source. Some people are really good about searching websites and, looking at resources through Google searches, or others read the campus emails, others delete the campus emails. So, I mean, our office does everything. We send out the mass emails. We actually got feedback from a professor, a computer science professor today, about how wonderful our newsletter is and how wonderful all the programs you offer are. So to get that kind of feedback from a faculty member, like a faculty member actually read our newsletter, which was pretty impressive. But, I also know that students, faculty, staff all get inundated with email every day. And unless they recognize the sender, they may or may not read it. So we have to try everything, and we're still trying to figure it out. And some students still come to us and say, oh my gosh, I never knew you existed. And this is my 4th year. I wish I would have known 3 years ago that you existed. And it's like, we try.
That's great. Yes. And, in terms of parent and family engagement, we love partnering with your team, with your department, and sharing all of the news that you have to share. So we try and spread the word on your behalf as much as possible. Happy to do that. Marte, another quick question for you about, your experience as a parent of a student. You don't have to speak about specific events, but kind of in general, has the way that you've approached, being your relationship with your student changed since they started in their freshman year till now, when they seem to be obviously a little more independent, right? Going to study abroad in the UK. Have you kind of changed how that relationship looks, or has it evolved? Have the concerns changed on their part?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, Christine. So, I think like Hana was describing, our student was on campus in March of 2020. And I think that we probably increased the amount of contact that we were having quite a bit, because there was just a lot of uncertainty and a lot of stress, and a lot of the activities that go along with college changed. And so I think that at a time that we might otherwise have been kind of having less contact, we probably increased it for a period of time. And then we've needed to kind of read, periods where things are going well, talk about levels of overwhelm. I actually track what week it is of the quarter, so that I've got a little bit of an idea about when the middle of the quarter is and when finals are going to be coming up, just so that I can send maybe a little heart emoji or something when I know it's going to be a tough week. And I have really appreciated all of the resources at UCI over the course of moving from living in Middle Earth to moving to one of the ACC apartments, and feeling comfortable that this is a big change. It's not the same as, moving 10 miles from campus and now needing to figure out the new bus routes or something like that. But the way that UCI offers support, there's so many different things at so many different levels. And I think that really has allowed for us to see the growing maturity, and then be really excited about the opportunities also to be able to study abroad now that the world has opened up again.
Well, thank you. Yes, the pandemic did certainly throw us all a little bit of a curveball there as parents. I have parents to young children, so not quite the same experience, but we all had to do some adjusting.
We were all impacted in a variety of different ways, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's good to hear about your experience. And I'm sure there are parents on this webinar who are learning from that as well, and finding their way with their students and adjusting as needed. We have time for maybe one or two more questions. And so this will be directed towards Doug, and it's about nutrition and, getting the right nutrients in, having the time to eat, like Hana mentioned, like she had to schedule in her meals and be aware of that. What are the best kind of tips and guidelines for students?
Yeah, I'm going to say make an appointment with our registered dietitian, Jody, who is, Hana mentioned is one of her greatest mentors. Jody is fantastic about helping students just create their own individualized nutrition plan. She's not a fan of diets, which most registered dietitians are not. So she will talk to you about what are your goals, what are your needs, and then let's talk about what can we do nutritionally to support those goals and those needs. So I would recommend just talking to Jody. I'm not the expert, so I don't want to answer a nutrition question with my limited experience and background, but I'm gonna I know there were a couple questions in the Q&A that I can answer real quick. I'm going to share my screen again just real fast. This is our website, studentwellness.uci.edu. So one of the questions was, when can we find out about, somebody asked specifically about Behind Happy Faces and Step Up. here is our calendar on our website. There's a calendar of all of our upcoming events. You can scroll down to see when programs are happening, what the date, all the information is there. Another question came in about data. What percentage of students struggle with mental health and whatnot? So if you go to this webpage, again, studentwellness.uci.edu, if you go to About Us and click on that, at the bottom of this, there's our vision, mission, and value statement. These annual reports talk about all the programs and services we offer. So it's our annual report. And then this ACHA, NCHA data gives you all of the data on the health topics that we talk about. So if you click on these reports, you can actually see all of the data from our most recent surveys that we conduct. So that's the best place to get all that information. So that's all right there on our website, as well as all of our other services.
Thank you for taking the time to share that, Doug. And as we're wrapping up right now, I understand that there are, probably a few questions that haven't been answered. So our team, the parent and family engagement team, will do our best to follow up and find the right resources for these parents who have asked questions, maybe outside the scope of what we're doing here on the webinar, but we'd love to help you in any way that we possibly can. And before we sign off, Taylor, if we can just get the slide of all of our resources, we'll go ahead and share that with you. So that's the contact information for the Center for Student Wellness and Health Promotion. And our Office of Parent and Family Engagement, you can reach us via email at that email address right there. So sometimes I'll take a screenshot of things when I'm looking at my kids, webinars for school or things like that. So you might want to take a screenshot, or with your phone, take a picture of that. But our contact information is also available online. Same with Doug's department. We very much are so grateful that you've joined us tonight. And thank you to all of our presenters. You did an amazing job and shared a unique perspective for each of you. So thank you so much. We'll go ahead and sign off now and share the recording post-webinar. Have a great evening, everyone.